Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala enables us to die in a good way. Whether we die early or late, that's not up to us. And the Prophet ﷺ told us many things. If we learn them, the death of a person we love becomes easy. Why? Because we know if they were good, their life, even starting from the grave, will be very nice. Better than this dunya. Because the Prophet ﷺ said, the grave of a mu'min, believer, man or woman, is made so spacious that as far as the eye can see. And this masjid is not that big. So the grave of a believer is far, maybe a few miles, as the eye can see. Every day, morning and evening, they are shown the place in Jannah. We never see our place in Jannah if we are, inshallah, hopefully from Ahlul Jannah in this dunya. So that we should remember when someone, and of course we know Allah said in the Quran in many places that the people will be reunited with their family who are believers. If we all believers, we all on Iman, we will be reunited inshallah in Jannah. So all that makes it easy to go over. Of course we all don't feel nice when someone we love dies, but I mean that makes it easy to accept it. And also the Prophet ﷺ said, إِنَّمَا الصَّبْرُ عِنْدَ الصَّدْمَةِ الْأُولَى, that sabr, the real sabr, is at the first blow. When it happens, then you have to have sabr. Later it becomes easier as it goes, as time passes. So may Allah have rahmah on her and reunite her with her believing family in Jannah. The second thing I want to say is, I've said it many times, but of course brothers, they try to respect me and call me sheikh, but I'm not really a sheikh. I try to do what I can to try and read a few things and say a few things, but sheikh is really a high word, and it is reserved, in my view, for the real ulama. Even though you may differ, it's my personal view, you may differ with me, it doesn't matter, but sheikh, yani it's okay to call someone ustad or something like that, or brother is very good, brother. إِنَّمَا الْمُؤْمِنُونَ إِخْوَةٌ. We don't call Uthman bin Affan sheikh. And he's a very big man, and Ali bin Abi Talib, Abu Huraira, and none of them we put sheikh in front. So myself, I feel bad when someone says sheikh. It's very nice to be called brother, because we're all brothers in Islam. And I always say I probably am a sheikh based on the milkshake. So today we discuss Uthman bin Affan radiallahu anhu. And his full name is Uthman bin Affan bin Abil As bin Umayyah bin Abd Shams. So the rulers of Banu Umayyah come from his lineage. Umayyah is one of their ancestors. Amirul Mu'mineen, anyone who was Khalifa, used to be called Amirul Mu'mineen, especially from the time of Umar, especially. So Uthman is Amirul Mu'mineen. Abu Amr, he's father of Amr, Abu Abdullah as well, Qurashi, he's from Quraysh, Umawi, from Banu Umayyah, from the tribe of Umayyah. He showed the Quran, and he took the Quran from the Prophet ﷺ directly. He is one of the people who was first and foremost in embracing Islam. He is the Dhun Nurayn. Some of you may have heard his title of Dhun Nurayn, the possessor of the two lights. And of course that means the possessor, the one who married the two daughters of the Prophet ﷺ. It is not permissible in Islam to marry two sisters at once. So you cannot have a wife and then her sister at the same time as wives to you. But it is permissible to marry them one after another. Or if you divorce one, it is permissible to marry the others. For that reason, sisters in Islam are considered to be temporary mahram. So if you marry a person and her sister, to you is a temporary mahram, but she shouldn't still uncover herself. The ulama said, many of them, in front of you, because there is a possibility that you may divorce her sister, or she may die. And in that case, that goes back to not being a mahram, meaning that you can marry her. Dhun Nurayn, Sahibul Hijratain, or Zawjul Ibnatain. So he's person who did hijrah twice, and he is the wife of two daughters of the Prophet. So this is a very tremendous honor indeed, and it's we sometimes read and we pass by it, but imagine some big alim, big scholar of the world gives his 2 daughters to you. You know, you marry one of them, she dies, and then he says, why don't you marry my second daughter? That means that that man really, really loves you. Because your daughter you don't give anyone. So it's a tremendous honor from the Prophet ﷺ to give to Uthman, because he married Ruqayya, the daughter of the Prophet ﷺ, before the Prophet became a prophet. So she gave birth to Abdullah, and he also used to be called Abu Abdullah, and also by his son Amr. And he did hijrah with Ruqayya to Habasha. And in the Battle of Badr, the Prophet ﷺ left Uthman. He didn't take part in the Battle of Badr. It will come back to haunt him. It would come back to haunt Uthman, because not to haunt him in the bad way, but in a way that some fitna people will use that incident of him not taking part in Badr. And why? Because the Prophet ﷺ himself told Uthman to stay with his daughter, to look after her. And of course she died after Badr a few days or a few nights. Then the Prophet ﷺ gave Uthman his share of Badr, as if he took part. That's very important to remember, because it will occur again in the lecture when we talk about the problems that will happen in the time of Uthman. It's very important to remember. Then the Prophet ﷺ, of course, we don't have a grieving period for the man. So if a wife dies, we don't have an official grieving period for the man. We have official grieving period for the woman if her husband dies. So the Prophet ﷺ gave his other daughter away, Kulthum, the mother of Kulthum. That was her name. Hassan al-Basri rahmahullah, one of the greatest ulama of Islam after the Sahaba, and one of the scholar of Basra in his time in Iraq. He said, إنما سمي عثمان ذا النورين لأن لا نعلم أحدا. He said he is called ذو النورين, Uthman, because we don't know anyone in the history of mankind, not just among Muslims, in the history of mankind, who, he said, closed his door, meaning he entered into his house 2 daughters of a prophet. There is not a single man we know from the history of mankind who has done that with 2 daughters of any prophet before or to the time of the Prophet ﷺ. So that is a tremendous honor. Ibn Umar, of course, very famous hadith, we used to say when the Prophet ﷺ was alive, Abu Bakr, then Umar, then Uthman. Abu Bakr, then Umar, then Uthman. They used to know the order of being the best or being the most knowledgeable, and they used to say it, and the meaning that the Prophet ﷺ wouldn't object to that. So this is what we call in Arabic taqrir, which is acknowledgement of the Prophet ﷺ if something is said in front of him that doesn't contradict the Sharia or doesn't contradict what Allah told him. Another alim from the ulama of the tabi'een, al-Sha'bi rahimahullah, said the Quran was not collected any of the khulafa except Uthman, by any of the khulafa except Uthman, and that is a tremendous honor as well. Ibn Sirin rahimahullah, one of the ulama of the tabi'een as well, said the most knowledgeable of the Hajj and Umrah was Uthman, then Ibn Umar. So each one of the Sahaba had his, like it was mentioned when we started the series of the 10 given the good news of Jannah, each of the Sahaba, whether they are included in the 10 or not, they used to have their own distinguishing qualities. They used to have maybe knowledge of Hajj and Umrah. Some would have more knowledge of halal and haram. Some would have, like we will see inshallah now. And in Bukhari and Muslim we have the hadith in which the Prophet said, when Abu Huraira was with the Prophet ﷺ, and people used to knock and request to enter and see the Prophet ﷺ, he said, allow him, and that was Uthman, because before him came Abu Bakr and Umar, allow him and give him the good news of Jannah, even though there will be some problem that will afflict him, meaning on his way to Jannah, that will be. Of course, also the Prophet ﷺ said, should I not feel shy from a man from whom malaika feel shy? The angels feel shy. So it's nice to be shy. You know, we hear some parents or relatives, they admonish their children because they say he's too shy, she's too shy. Being shy is better than being too the other way, especially for girls, because it beautifies her even more than men, even though for men even it's good, because Uthman radiallahu anhu used to be very shy. The Prophet ﷺ also said, Arhamu ummati bi ummati Abu Bakr, that the most merciful of my ummah to my ummah is Abu Bakr. And that is true, because the more the person knows ilm, the more he has rahmah for people. That those two are connected. وَأَشَدُّهُمْ فِي دِينِ اللَّهِ عُمَرٍ, and the one who is the strongest in the deen and who has most determination is Umar. So each one has his side. وَأَصْدَقُهُمْ حَيَاءً عُثْمَانٍ, and the one who has most true, not feigning, meaning some people can pretend to be very shy, but he doesn't pretend. Uthman radiallahu anhu, truly shy. He did many good things. Some of the most important ones, when the Muslims migrated to Medina, they needed a well or a spring of water, and he bought it with his own money, because he was a wealthy man, paying 35,000 dirham, which is a lot of money, and he donated it to the Muslims. And the Prophet ﷺ said, whoever buys this will have a better well in Jannah, or a better spring in Jannah. And Uthman bought it. Also he prepared what is called in the history of Islam Jayshul Usra, and Allah called it that the time of difficulty, and that is the battle or the expedition of Tabuk in the year 9 after Hijrah. That is the last expedition the Prophet ﷺ went on himself, and they were in need of financial assistance, and Uthman came and he put 1,000 dinar, not dirham. 1,000 dinar, it means 1,000 gold coins, each weighing more than 4 grams. So 4 by 1,000, that is 4 kilograms of gold or more, 4.5 something kilograms of gold. He put in his lap and said, this is for the army. And that equipped the whole expedition of Tabuk. So the Prophet ﷺ said, nothing Uthman does after today will harm him. Nothing Uthman does after today will harm him. That is a very important hadith when we remember later some of what people said were mistakes of Uthman radiallahu anhu when he became Khalifa. The Prophet ﷺ also said the Khilafah, which means the rule of Islam, or you can say maybe Khilafah literally means one after another, or someone after someone. So Khalifat Rasulullah, they used to call Abu Bakr, as we will see inshallah. So the Khilafah will be 30 years, then it will be kingdom or mulk. If you want any references, like I said before, inshallah I can provide you, but I'm omitting them for the time. The Prophet ﷺ also said that fitna will spread like seeds, and this man and who is with him are upon the truth, and it was Uthman he was pointing to. So we will inshallah I will go straight to when the Khilafah of Uthman started, because that is the very important point for us. Now we are very far from the time of the Prophet ﷺ. We have a lot of problems that happen in the Muslim world. It's not because we have now a problem with Syria, or there was a problem with Libya, or there was a problem with Algeria, or Somalia, or any other. They keep constantly happening. So once one is resolved, so-called, in big quotation marks, it's not resolved how Allah likes. It's resolved meaning we stopped the killing for a while. And it's not a resolution, but at least it's stopped the killing. Another country opens up for killing. So we need to know how these great people who had knowledge and understanding, and they never doubted, like we said about Ali, like the scholar said about Ali bin Abi Talib radiallahu anhu, that he never straight away when the fitna started, he never had any doubts. That is the way of the ulama. The true ulama, they never doubt, because they believe 100% what they read in the Quran and the Sunnah. They don't doubt, they don't believe those things that people may persuade other weak people to believe. They don't believe any of that. They say this is nothing. Like Shaykh al-Albani rahimahullah, I'll give you a quick example. When the election happened in Algeria in the 90s, and the so-called Islamists won it, they came running, some of the students, to the Shaykh al-Albani rahimahullah, and they said, Shaykh, they have won. He said, it's nothing. He said, it's soap suds. You know when you have soap and you wash your hands, those bubbles. Meaning it's nothing, it just seems good. But if you poke it, it's like a balloon. And they said, some of the students, they said, we didn't understand, why is Sheikh not happy? Because apparently they won the election. And he said, this is beginning of the fitna, he said. It's not beginning, it's at the end of the problems. And when they won the elections, now everyone knows what the Sheikh said at the beginning. Because now we've seen it. So the problem started, the government started, the others started, and all sorts of killing. The people started saying it's jihad, your next door neighbor is a kafir, his wife is halal. And that was happening in Algeria. They used to stop brothers with their wives and say, kill them, and his wife is halal for us. Wallahi, ikhwan, I'm telling you. Because people told us who witnessed that. It's not something we imagine. Because if you listen to what these people did during the time of Ali, you will understand that it can happen in our time, and it is happening in our time. So we need to know, and this example I gave to show the scholars who never doubt. They don't doubt these things. That's why we need them so much. When they die, we feel a great need, because now sometimes we go around, we say, where's Shaykh al-Albani, where's Shaykh ibn Baz, where's Shaykh ibn Uthman, where's Shaykh Fulan, where's this man? Because we need them. So these people, I will go straight to the Khilafah, because that's when their real knowledge shows. You know, you can claim every knowledge you want. You can claim to be Hafiz, like many brothers do, unfortunately. If you're Hafiz, you should keep quiet. You shouldn't, like I said in many lectures, I'm probably getting on your nerves now. But I want the people to understand that you memorize Quran not for us. You know, you memorize Quran for you. Then you have to understand it. Then you have to do what it says. So memorizing is the beginning of the journey, not the end. These people, they didn't care about that. What they cared was, Allah said, the Prophet ﷺ said. So let's see what happened in his Khilafah. He assumed, and he was chosen, of course, out of the 6. And those 6 I have been mentioning for a while. So they were Uthman, Ali, Abdurrahman bin Auf, Sa'd bin Abi Waqqas, Az-Zubair bin Al-Awwam, and Talha bin Ubaidillah. Those 6 were designated by Umar to choose the Khalifa after him, from between them. Because he considered them to be most worthy of being a Khalifa after him. And we will see how Umar himself, because we're going a little bit backwards, so we're not going chronologically. So today we're doing Uthman, then inshallah, hopefully we'll do Umar, then Abu Bakr last week, inshallah. So how it happened was that those 6 people, Abdurrahman and Sa'd, they said to each other, look, we don't want it. You and me, we don't want it. We know it. So Abdurrahman bin Auf said to them, me, I don't want the Khilafah. I don't want to be Khalifa. So I relieve you. You only have 4 people, because Sa'd also doesn't want. So let me then help you choose it. Choose the person. Because I removed myself, so you're not worried that I will choose myself. So 4 people left. Out of the 4, I will help you choose, because he said, I will make a few days consultation. They agreed, because they never had any reason to suspect Abdurrahman bin Auf radiallahu anhu, because he was a good man. So he held consultations for a few days, and people who wanted to give him his views, they did. And he also held meetings with the 4 who was supposed to choose. He was supposed to choose the Khalifa from them. And he told each one of them, if I choose someone other than you, who would you like to be? So he wants to know their opinion as well. So that is very important, and that shows that Abdurrahman bin Auf radiallahu anhu, his mind was a statesman-like mind. You know, he didn't want to waste time, and they slept very little during those days, because they wanted not to have any problems. When you have a power vacuum, there's power, everyone wants it. Do you think people don't want to assume the power of the so-called Islamic empire? They do. So there is a problem if you keep it too long. So they have to do it quickly. But at the same time, they don't want to do it quickly, then again do it. Just like marriage. You don't want to delay it, but you don't want to rush it. No? Because you don't want them to be divorced and problem and things like that. So, and alhamdulillah, they were successful after Umar was killed. We will discuss that inshallah next week. And you notice that Ali radiallahu anhu was killed. Uthman will be killed. Today in the story we will see how he will be killed. And Umar as well, may Allah be pleased with him, was killed. So you notice from the 4 rightly guided caliphs, only Abu Bakr died a natural death. That shows that whatever happened, if someone wants to know, he should, or she, you know, the people watch detective stories. Who done it, you know, and who's the killer? That's true, it's interesting. Once you start watching, you can't get away from it. I'm talking about myself. Because you think, oh, who did it? All these guys are there. So the issue with Umar, Uthman, Ali, that should in our minds be very interesting, more interesting, in order to prompt us to try and find out what really happened. Because how is it possible for those great people not to be loved and to be killed? Number 1. Number 2, how is it possible for people to allow that to happen? So there was some problem then, there was a mistake, there was a lapse of security, or no one was to blame. Just Allah wanted it to happen, just like an accident. So those questions should make us really try and read and try to understand. The fact that books of history do contain some weak narrations shouldn't deter us from finding out. Because at the end of the day, we read books sometimes, not weak narrations, they just invented them. You know Robin Hood. Did Robin Hood exist? No, he never existed. Maybe his name is from the word robbing someone. I don't know, I'm just saying. Because he's Robin Hood, he used to say, I rob the poor, give to the rich, or rob the rich, give to the poor. In Islam, you can't rob the rich or the poor. Sherlock Holmes didn't exist. There is a museum to him in London. So we try to read those stories, even though it's interesting, but they're not, I don't mean that they're not interesting. They are, but they're a product of imagination. Those things never existed. So we are worried of reading history that I may have one weak hadith. Or this is talbis Iblis. Iblis is trying to tell us, don't read it. Better read Sherlock Holmes and Robin Hood. It's okay to read Robin Hood and Sherlock Holmes, but our Islamic history is much more important to read, because that will help us to understand many, many things. So, during the Khilafah of Uthman radiallahu anhu, many countries, the Muslim empire, the Muslim country, expanded totally globally, because many countries were conquered, many countries became Muslims, some they didn't become Muslims, they, what we call, did sulh. They they did agreements and pacts to pay a yearly jizya. You can say a tax which is not taxing as the tax is now. And many countries like North Africa, Khorasan, present-day Iran, with its capital Naysabur, Azerbaijan in Arabic, which is Azerbaijan now, Armenia, they were Cyprus and Malta, they were occupied, and they were expeditions sent by Uthman with Muawiyah in charge, because Muawiyah tried to convince Umar to send him on the sea, and Umar did research and he requested some people to submit certain, so that's all scientific, subhanAllah, scientific jihad. He requested people to submit papers, or rather their oral testimony to say how dangerous or otherwise the sea was. So someone wrote to him some nice poetry that discouraged Umar from embarking on the sea, and he said, I'm not going to take any Muslim to the sea. He said it's too dangerous, so the policy in Umar's time was that. And that was his personal opinion. Then when Uthman came, of course, he allowed it. And there were certain expeditions in the sea. And of course, due to that, the wealth that was coming in became tremendous in the time of Uthman radiallahu anhu throughout his years, because he became Khalifa 24 after Hijrah. He was murdered and killed year 35 after Hijrah. So 11 plus, you can say, years. And the first 6 years, they said, there were no problems almost at all, because people were very happy with Uthman, all people, even the fitna people. They were happy that Uthman was different to Umar. Umar's personality was different. Uthman's personality was different, and Uthman was chosen from the 6 by Abdurrahman bin Auf with the agreement of all the others, because he saw that the majority of people wanted Uthman. And the opinion of Ahlul Sunnah is, because of the dalil we have, is that it's Abu Bakr, Umar, then Uthman, then Ali, how they are in the Khilafah. Some Ahlul Sunnah, they said Ali is better than Uthman. It's a wrong view, but some ulama said that. And that, as Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah said in the Aqidah Wasitiyah, that doesn't make the person an innovator himself, if he holds that view, even though it's wrong. However, the person who says, or a person who says, the Khilafah should have been Ali before Uthman, makes him an innovator. Why? Because all the Sahaba agreed to that. So he's going against what the Sahaba agreed to. The Khilafah, the rule, meaning that should have been Ali. Of course, not to mention if someone says Ali should have been before Abu Bakr, which some people say, unfortunately. They even say worse things. They say, actually, Jibril made the mistake. The Prophet should have been Ali, not Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. How can Jibril make a mistake? Tell me. And Jibril does what Allah says. Go to this man, deliver this. That's it. So if someone made the mistake, it's not Jibril. They imply it's Allah. And that's kufr akbar. Even to say Jibril made the mistake is major kufr, takes the person out of Islam. And the people who say it are the Rafida. The Shia, so-called Shia, but they're Rafida. And they say almost every point of their belief is kufr akbar, ikhwan. If if you look through their belief, you can't say this is kufr asghar, this is minor. Almost every is kufr akbar. Then they come and say, brother, we're brothers, mashallah, let's be together. Don't worry about things we differ. This I've seen with my eyes, a person who said it to us. With my ears I heard. Because we asked him, what do you believe about Abu Bakr and Umar? He said, don't worry, we just unite. And he doesn't want to answer. So one brother became upset, said, get away from me. I don't want to unite with you, he said, because you don't tell me about Abu Bakr and Umar, what you think. Then he said, everyone makes mistakes. So the brother said, what mistakes? What do you mean mistakes? So he didn't want to say. These people, they curse Abu Bakr and Umar. But because he's afraid all sunnah with him, he doesn't want to say. So that's another topic. But the point I'm making is that how it is in the order Abu Bakr, Umar, Uthman, Ali, that's how it should be. That's how Allah is happy with. And how he did the Khilafah. So the first 6 years were good. No problems. Meaning not because Uthman was any different. No. He continued with what he saw correct. In his time, the Masjid Haram in Mecca was enlarged. In his time, in his Khilafah, the Masjid Nabawi was enlarged. For the first time, a stone was used. For the first time. Before that, stone was never used for the Prophet's Masjid Sallallahu. It was all wood and things like that. And they were so wealthy, but they didn't consider it. Because all the money used to go for important projects. They didn't consider the masjid to be important because, alhamdulillah, we have roof. Like Umar said. Umar also expanded, we will see inshallah next week. He said to the builder, just make the masjid to keep the heat and the cold out. That's it. Now, mashallah, we have masjid like a museum. You go inside, you forget you're in a masjid. You think, wow. I was in a masjid like that, I won't tell you where. I was like this, subhanAllah. I said to the man with me, I said, how much does it cost? He said, over $1 billion. I said, what? So I said, Sheikh, what do you think? He said, no, it's not allowed. So of course that's not correct. But we say at least if a wealthy man wants to put his money, let him put in the masjid. But still it's exaggeration. So that's how these people, and for the first time in the Khilafah of Uthman, they used stone for the Prophet's masjid and no one objected. So alhamdulillah it was done. So after 6 years, some people started talking. Because they said Uthman appointed some people from his relatives to important positions. Then they started saying that he takes money that Abu Bakr and Umar didn't used to take. Then they started saying he didn't take part in Badr. So it started getting worse. Then they started saying certain things. In his time, as you know, the Quran was made into one book. Because many people used to recite differently. So Uthman said, let's check all of these. And what agrees with the Sunnah, we put, and what disagrees, we ignore. Ibn Mas'ud used to have a Mus'haf. Ibn Abbas used to have a Mus'haf. And those, they used to differ sometimes, so it used to cause problems. So Uthman made it into single book. So those people of fitna, they said, how can he make it one single book? So if you leave it, you don't make, they say, why doesn't he make it single book? You know the people I told you about masjid, if you may put new windows, they say, A'udhu Billahi, the masjid wasted so much money. If you don't do windows, they say it's too cold. You never can please them. Such people existed all the time. But, alhamdulillah, it's masjid or khilafah. So some people started saying, Uthman made the book of Allah into one. So they start talking with people about that. And he removed certain rulers. Yani some Sahaba used to be in Basra, in Kufa, in there, in Egypt, in there. So he changed them. Because he considered it that there is a problem with them. So they start saying something. We don't want this man. Some people, they say, we don't want this. Like some brothers, they say, we don't want this imam. He's good, he knows deen. No, don't want. So what can you do? It's problem. So problems started occurring and they multiplied. Of course, as you understand, it's like a snowball effect. And Uthman being very, not, he wasn't like Umar or Ali in the sense that he wanted to fight them. You know, he was very soft and nice, so he used to say nicely to them. You know, look, you don't want this, we don't want, we can discuss, we can talk, we can this. And of course, people who, like sometimes in the street, if you say to someone, please, he thinks you're weak. And he may hit you next time. So some people, they, or if you give them the way, they think you're, who's this? So they try to be tough or something. So some people don't understand when you try to be nice to them. But Islam doesn't say, even if they don't understand, yani if they don't understand, you should be nasty to them. No. We wait until they understand. So Uthman radiallahu anhu was being patient with them. And due to the length, it's a few pages, 10 pages or more. I will, of course, will not read all of it. I have made, as you can see, a lot of marks and lots of pens, different colors. I will read some of what happened that led to him being killed in his own house. And by that time, by the year 35, he was 82 or 86, some said. Very old. So I want everyone to understand that he was an old man. He was the best person alive because he was better than Ali. He was, after the Prophet ﷺ, Abu Bakr Umar had died, he was alive. He had married the Prophet's two daughters, ﷺ. Yani he did so much for Islam. And he was the Khalifa. So if you have a problem, you could. The Khalifas at the time, even now, Ikhwan, in many countries, I know, I went to some Arab countries, some brothers told me, you put your name in a list, there is a list. You want to see the ruler of this city or whatever. And if they approve, they send you an appointment to his majlis. You come and you are allowed to put maybe one or two requests or something, or questions. Yeah. That we don't have here. People, are so amazed that democracy, I call it democracy. Democracy, I call it. Because it doesn't exist. It never has existed, never will exist. It's just a cheating way to cheat people to think they're in charge. The guy in the corner shop is in charge of the country. Even he laughing, mashallah. That's true. The guy give me half lamb. He's doing half lamb. He's in charge of the country. Mashallah. Let's think like that. I'm doing lecture. I'm in charge of the country. The imam in charge. All lie. Who believes it? Because we chose one guy. Yes, mashallah. Now we are in charge. Democracy. We had all democracy. So these people are shocked when you say in Muslim countries, in some, not all, in some Arab Muslim countries, you can actually have a chance in Ramadan or some other time to come and sit with the ruler. I'm not lying to you, that's true. I'm not saying the ruler is mashallah Umar ibn al-Khattab. I'm not saying that. But there is such a thing. Right? In the time of Uthman, anything, any concern you had, you could come and discuss with Uthman himself. You could have waited. There were provisions for hospitality and for you to wait and everything. But you could come, and you were young, old, woman, man, doesn't matter. You could come and discuss with him. So why is it that the people who say those things are so wrong, they don't discuss? The Sahaba who had issues with Uthman, they discussed it with him. Some Sahaba said, why did you do this? Why did you remove that man? So Uthman explained to them. Another thing they said was wrong that Uthman did, because Khalifa used to go and do Hajj with people. If he couldn't, he would make someone do it in his place. So sometimes one day, 1 year, you can say, when Uthman went and did Hajj, he went to Mecca, and for the first time, even he didn't used to do it before, for the first time, instead of praying 2 rak'ah as a traveler, he prayed 4. So people said, even Sahaba, they said, This is wrong. Ali said this is wrong. Everyone said this is wrong. Abdullah bin Mas'ud prayed for with him. So they said, what's going on? Why did you pray for? He said, Al-Khilaf Shar. It's narrated by Bukhari. Al-Khilaf Shar. To differ is wrong, is bad, is evil. Look how Ibn Mas'ud is looking forward. Because these 2 rak'ah can contribute, did contribute to the death of Uthman. Why? Because people didn't give him any excuse. And Uthman replied to all of that. And we will see how he replied, inshallah. Including the 2 rak'ah. Naam. So people started grumbling. I mean, not people, good people. Because good people were enjoying the good life. Yani in the time of Uthman, it was almost impossible to find a poor person. So you could go and say, I want to give you some sadaqah. Say, Akhi, someone came and gave me before. Give someone else. So in that climate, imagine we live now, each one of us has a palace. Each one of us has a palace. We have servants, we have animals, we have wealth. Someone says, I need money, say, don't worry, just my slave will bring you now. Then they start grumbling. How can you grumble in that position? That shows that there are people who, unfortunately, as they say, medicine can't cure them. No medicine or Sharia can't cure them. So whatever happens, they grumble. If you make this masjid out of gold, they will still say something. If you bring the best sheikh and put him to be imam, they will still say something. Such people exist. But the problem occurs when such people start making problem. So if they try to make problem in a masjid, that's one thing. If they try to make a problem in a country as important as it was in that time, and even now, but imagine all of the Muslim countries now, they don't have all these prime minister, president, everyone, just one ruler, and you have some others that are appointed by that ruler. So they started. There were 3 main places that people felt bad, also called bad. Kufa, which is in Iraq, Basra, which is also in Iraq, and Egypt. Does it ring a bell? We have problem in Egypt now, and we have problem in Iraq. I'm not saying people of Egypt and Iraq are the worst. I'm just saying these things keep occurring. They keep happening. So if we read Islamic history, at least it gives us an idea what used to go on. So the people of Egypt started going on about their ruler, that in Egypt you changed this, you did this, or we want to change him, we want again him back, we want Kufa and Basra. Kufa was the first to actually force Uthman to appoint Abu Musa al-Ash'ari, one of the Sahaba, instead of the man they had. And the historians like Al-Dhahabi here, he said, what the people of Kufa did, he said, with their ruler Sa'id bin al-As was the first weakness that occurred to Uthman when he gave in to them. Because the people of fitna, because the Sahaba, they didn't initiate such things. Because Sahaba, what they used to do, they used to say to Uthman, why are you removing me? Tell me, what wrong did I do? Because it's important for him to know. And did I do something wrong? So if he said, no, because of this I consider it better, they would say, طيب, طاعة, سمع طاعة. We hear and we obey, because they have taught like this by the Prophet ﷺ. He used to say, even if a slave becomes ruler, you have to listen to him. Meaning, as long as he doesn't tell you to do haram. So to remove someone, put someone is not haram. So the ruler can do it if he thinks. Yes, you may think, no, I don't agree with you. I'm doing a very good job. He may say, no, I don't think so. So the Sahaba didn't make a problem with that. So they used to, but there were people of fitna who had wrong intentions. So always those are the ones who stir trouble, not the good people. Good people want just to live good life. They don't want problems. But if you allow the bad people to make problem, even the good will suffer, just like we will see now. So they started making these problems, and Uthman radiallahu anhu, and of course all of the things that they said, what we can say at least is it was Uthman's judgment as a ruler who was a scholar as well. Alim. So the Prophet said if a alim or a judge, he uses his judgment, ijtihad, and he makes it, or he gets it right, he gets two rewards, and if he's wrong, then he gets one reward. Why? Because one reward he gets for trying to get it right. His niyyah is to follow the sunnah. And if he gets it right, then with the niyyah he gets another ajr for following the sunnah. So if we say Uthman was wrong, radiallahu anhu, then what we say is, at least he gets how many? One ajr. Just like we say about the problems that occurred in the time of Ali radiallahu anhu. If the people who fought, of course we know some of them were wrong, some of them were right. Ali was right, just to save you research of 10 years. That's the good thing about learning from the ulama, from the books, because we can then relay what the ulama say to our brothers and to myself and to others. So it saves us so much time. Ali was right, and the people against him were wrong. But we don't say bad about the Sahaba, because they all, Allah said good things about them. So for that we say they were wrong, but at least they get one ajr because they thought they wanted to do good, but they weren't right. So it kept continuing, and Uthman decided to meet some of them. And he said, if you want to have a meeting with me, just like he used to do, please come and express your concerns to me. What can be better than that? So, for example, we have some problem with someone. That's how we should always do. We have a problem with the masjid. Let's meet them. Let's talk like brothers. Akhi, I don't think, in a nice way, not abuse or something. Akhi, I don't think this is correct. It's better if, maybe I'm wrong, because I'm not a prophet, or Allah didn't send us. We shouldn't always think we are always right. But we can all come to a better solution if we all agree, if we all talk to each other. Many problems get out of hand, even in the family, between husband and wife, when they don't talk to each other. And the same can occur in a masjid, it can occur in a country. So Uthman said, let them come and we will all talk. So he sent for the Egyptian and the Kufi, the people from Kufa and the people from Misr. And they came to the Prophet's masjid, sallallahu. So he said, they have some issues against me. So a few people got up and said, you have to kill all of them. Because the Prophet ﷺ said that when you have imam, leader, khalifa, and someone comes and wants problem, and wants to take him, you have to kill who? The second one. So Uthman said no, even though he knows this hadith. He knows the Prophet said it. He said, no, we will forgive them. I will forgive them. Because what they wanted was, ultimately, it led to them to basically to not clearly indicate, but to hint that they may forcefully remove Uthman. Because if Uthman doesn't agree, or anyone who doesn't agree, there are two ways. Either they accept or they don't accept. If they don't accept, what happens? They have to change that man. So Uthman said, I will try to make them understand. So he said, they say he made salah 4 rak'ah, and it used to be 2. And he said, I did it because I had a wife in Makkah, so I considered it not being traveling. So it's a very simple explanation. Yes, we may not agree, and some Sahaba, they didn't agree still. But that's explanation of Uthman. He did, like I said, ijtihad in these issues. Like we can find many. Talha bin Ubaidillah. Talha, we talked, is Ahlul Jannah or not? Ahlul Jannah, Talha. He used to eat snow. Snow. You know snow? When he was fasting, and he used to say, this is not food or drink. So according to Talha, you can eat snow, mashallah. You can stuff yourself with snow. It's not food or drink, alhamdulillah. It's not iftar. Who now agrees? If you go to the Muslim butcher, he will not accept this fatwa. He's not alim, he knows it's not correct. So people made mistakes. So if you think Uthman made a mistake and he did so much good for you, is it not worth to say, yani, he made a mistake and that's it, alhamdulillah, he's done so many things for us? No, they don't do that. He said, they say you made special enclosures and sanctuaries for the animals, and he said, I didn't do it for my own animals, I did it for the animals of sadaqah. Look, he's doing good, these people are telling people he's doing bad. And he said, when I became Khalifa, I used to be one of the richest Arabs, having a lot of camels and sheep, and today I have only 2 camels that I keep for Hajj. I keep for Hajj. Maybe him and his wife, maybe him and his family, they go to Hajj. So these people are telling others, look what they're doing, look what he's doing, look, just like now. Now what do you expect the rulers to be like Uthman? No. We are not like Uthman. What do you expect rulers to be like Uthman? We are not. We watch, I was talking today and I always say, we can watch cricket 5 days, but we can't learn Deen 5 days. And we want ruler to learn Deen 5 days. We don't do it. We can watch cricket all day, like this, lying, standing, sitting, walking. We watch in the phone, what's the score? Oh yes, first inning. Second. I was in a barber shop the other day, and there was cricket. I was afraid he would do something to me, because he was watching cricket. Doing my hair. I said, how is he doing my hair? There's TV there. So I was shocked. The guy, even he's doing my hair, he's watching. Then sometimes he looks at my hair, correct something. Alhamdulillah, it came okay, but I was worried. And that's Muslims. If you say, yani, ruler, he say, rubbish. You, mashallah, yani, we should look at ourselves. How are we now? Some of us don't wake up for Fajr. Some of us don't do this, don't do that, don't do that. And we want the ruler to be, I don't know who. Yani, ruler also human being. Some of our brothers, you know what, you watch cricket or football or so. Have you ever thought that you're doing haram or never thought that? The same ruler, he maybe never thinks that when he goes and does something, he's not doing haram. So I'm not saying our rulers are so good, but we should also look at ourselves. You know, if we want good rulers, the Sahaba used to say, how you are, your rulers will be. So people are talking about problem in Kashmir, problem there, problem. Kashmir not full of graves, ikhwan, and worship of graves. Some brothers tell me it's full of grave worship. It's not true. Most Pakistanis in Britain are Brailwis or what? Or Ahlul Hadith. Tell me that. Brailwi. What do Brailwi believe? Tawheed or shirk? Shirk akbar, not shirk asghar even. So how can Allah help us? When you go and say, oh Jilani, Jilani, help me. What Jilani, subhanAllah? When people are being killed, we get upset. That's true, we should get upset. When someone says, Jilani, akhi, that's life, what can you do, we say. What can we do? We have to hate it. We have to tell them, akhi, this is shirk akbar. You can't do it. How many of us have the guts to say that? How many of us go into a butcher shop? I love butcher shops because you can find so many things as well as the meat. You go into a butcher shop, you can even get a fatwa from the butcher. He can give you fatwa on many things, especially meat. He doesn't know much, he says, but If you don't know much, keep quiet. You know, it's like me going to engineering company and saying, look guys, I don't know much about engineering, but I will tell you this. They're going to say, please leave our premises and get engineering degree. They have every right to say so. But now butcher is given fatwa. So in the butcher you have shirk. Numbers, they give barakah, mashallah. You have never seen that? I see it every day. Who gives barakah, Allah or this number? And this number is haram by ijma' of ulama. So you say, akhi, these numbers don't give barakah. Only Allah can give. Say, yes, inshallah, inshallah, meaning get lost. Inshallah, meaning another way. Salam alaikum. One even said to me, butcher. I said to him, brother, you sell beef? He said, no. I said, why? Because in Leicester there are lots of Hindus. Taib. So, butcher is a big battleground for da'wah. So I go in and say, you sell beef? Say, no. I say, why? My wife with me, she doesn't want any confrontation. She said, leave it, she knows what I'm going to say. I said, don't worry. So he says, no, I don't sell. I said, because of your Hindu customers? He said, yes. I saved him, because if I keep saying why, he will never answer. I said, akhi, do you know that they make beef haram because they believe beef, cow is very sacred animal? He said, yes, I know that. I said, do you believe that? He said, no. I said, why don't you sell beef then? He said, you know, brother, Jazakallah khair, meaning get lost, it's time to go. So I said, akhi, you know, this is a deen issue, it's aqidah issue. It's true, ikhwan. It's aqidah issue. If you believe you can't sell beef, and you know that area is like probably Bradford, you may get 3 Hindu customers a week, maybe. And all the customers are Muslims. I said to him, akhi, you are selling no beef because of 3 Hindus a week. And you have 200, 300, 400 Muslim customers who want to do beef curry maybe. So he now get upset with me. Because people in the shop, maybe Hindu. One brother even said to me, I said, brother, you have beef? I say like this loudly because I want even Hindu to hear it. Yahi, Ikhwan, Hindu are on battle. What cow, yahi, God, whatever it is. Cow, holy animal. Who made it holy? Who? The cow made itself holy. Or human who is stupid made it holy. It's like me coming and saying, chicken is a holy animal. Don't sell chicken. And I said to the brothers, look, we have Hindu shops, and maybe you have the same problem here. In Hindu shops, they sell gods. Buy one god, get one free. There is a god sale. God's going down now. It's true. You can go in Leicester to a shop. Look, I'm looking for this god. Can you sell me? Yes. Just see if I have in stock. And total junoon, madness. I said, why is it that the Hindus, when we Muslims come in, they don't hide the God? Oh, I have God, Muslims come in. They don't like gods. They say Tawheed. They feel proud, I have God, I'm Hindu. Sikhs feel proud, I'm a Sikh. Muslim, oh no beef, sorry. Why? Because customer. Yahi, what customer? And you asking Allah to help you? Every day he goes, Allah help me. You saying cow is a holy animal, yahi, by not selling the cow. So one brother, I said to him, brother, you have beef? He said, he looked around like this. Said, no. I said, why are you looking around? Then I looked and I saw someone maybe look like Hindu. So I said, okay, let me wait till they go. Maybe he might have beef after that. So he went. I said, brother, you have beef? Second time. Same person. He said, yes. I said, A'udhu Billah, you lied to me first time? Wallahi, ikhwan, I'm not lying to you. You know, butcher, you can write books about butchers. Because we go for meat every time. And corner shops, but butchers more. So, he said, you know, of course he knows he lied, but what can he say? Say, you know, we have customers. I said, "Akhi," so the same lecture occurred there. Why am I saying all this? Some people may say, who cares about the butcher and the beef and this? You can go to another. Actually, in Leicester, it's a problem. You can't go to another. Sometimes you have. I know one Pakistani person. He's not Indian or Bengali. One Pakistani butcher that sells beef. That is a disaster, yani, because you believe if tomorrow someone says sheep is a holy animal and they come to your shop, then you can't sell sheep. Goat is a holy animal. That I'm saying because it's a religious issue. It's not a meat issue. It's a religious issue. Why is it that Sikhs, when they sell pork, if a Muslim were to come into their butcher, they wouldn't stop selling pork because they are proud to be Sikhs. They consider Islam to be batil. They consider Sikhism to be the haqq, the truth. We have proofs that to consider a cow a holy animal is not correct. So when you try to advise, so all of that I'm saying, before you accuse the ruler, look at yourself. Look at your butcher. It's not enough to grow a beard. Ulama teach us, you know, growing a beard, you just don't shave. It grows by itself. To not grow a beard is harder. You have to shave and look in the mirror and stuff. But to grow a beard, just wake up, alhamdulillah, wash, go work, go to study. It keeps growing. Some brothers, mashallah, nice. Some short, some. So to grow a beard is one act of obedience to Allah. If you do it for Allah. Is that enough? No, it's like saying, oh, I'm wearing clothes, it's good. I'm a Muslim. Because I covered my awrah. I did one thing, mashallah, now Allah is going to help me. How is it possible? So before we criticize the rulers, we have to look at ourselves. We sometimes do different sins, commit different sins that are as bad as the rulers, if not worse. We talk about our good brothers, we keep our tongues very loose. You know, we think bad of each other. So that's how Uthman is replying to them. He said the Quran used to be different books and I made it one. Because Quran is one, it came from one. So I'm following the people before me. Is it true? They said yes. And if they said yes, still they differ with him. And he said, you are telling me that I use young people to appoint to important positions. Someone better than me, he said, did it. And the Prophet ﷺ appointed Usama bin Zayd, as you know, and he was a very young teenager. He wanted to dispatch him in charge of a huge army containing Abu Bakr, Umar and others. So he said, is it true? They said yes. And they agreed to everything now. He said, I love the people of my household and my relatives and I give them. As for loving, then my love, he said, didn't make me commit haram. I love them, but my love didn't make me commit haram. As for giving them, then I give from my money. I don't give from Muslims' money. And he said, I don't consider the money or the wealth of the Muslims to be halal for me or for anyone. And he was very wealthy and he distributed a lot of land he used to have and his wealth in his relatives, Banu Umayyah. So they said, everything you said is correct. So they went back. Apparently, alhamdulillah, good, mashallah. So he forgave them. He didn't do anything, even though some of them were threatening him. Then they, of course, the people of Fitna kept continuing. They said, what he said to you is not true. And then they started gathering to Medina. That is the capital. People of Egypt came 400. People of Kufa came 400. People of Basra came similar. The time is what? Very important. The time is Dhul Hijjah. Time of what? Hajj. Time of Hajj. Is Hajj happening in Medina or Mecca? Mecca. They're gathering where? In Medina. So they pretended to be Hujjaj on the way to Mecca. So they came to Medina and they approached a few of the Sahaba because they needed the support of the people of Medina to mount a revolt, because essentially what they wanted to do was to remove Uthman. That was their objective, because their objective, and they planned very long time for it. Certain people planned, because not everyone plans. You know, some people just tell you nice picture, this is Coca-Cola, and it's water. But they put nice Coca-Cola sign. They say this is Coca-Cola. Looks like it, smells like it, but inside it's not Coca-Cola. So they made the thing nice to some jahils. If you read their names, ikhwan, wallahi, their names tell you the problem. Names. Their names mean bad things. Those people who organized it. Now, even they said that a person who killed Uthman was called Himar. You know Himar? Donkey. Himar, a'udhu billah. It's true, he's worse than Himar. Yani Himar didn't kill Uthman. No donkey came to kill Uthman. But his name was Himar. To be a human and be called Himar is not nice. So, and they approached a few Sahaba after they gathered those numbers, and they said to the Sahaba, this is Coke. We want good things. We want, you know. So all of them said bad things to them. Ali, they approached Ali. You know, because they know there may have been some problems. They know if anyone, like if I have a problem with the Imam, people who want to remove the Imam will come to me. So they will say, look, you know, he's not reading Fatiha properly. Or something. So they went to Ali, they went to Talha, they went to Zubair, they went to a few others. All of them, they went to the wives of the Prophet ﷺ. All of them rebuked them and they said, if you do it, you are mal'un, you cursed. So they didn't have any, so they apparently agreed to go back. Then some of the Sahaba went to Hajj under Abdullah bin Abbas, because that year Uthman decided not to go. So he appointed Abdullah bin Abbas to be in charge of the Hajj, and they left. Many Sahaba went. Some Sahaba stayed. Then they heard commotion and stuff, and people, the same people had returned. So they met some of the Sahaba, they told them, why did you return? Because we thought that we told you the answer. Meaning, why are you looking for trouble now? Because all that time, you know, the Sahaba, don't forget, this was before the time of Ali. Even though we did biography of Ali last week. But this was before the time of Ali. So people didn't really have experience of Khawarij as such. As an organized group. As a group that always aims to remove a ruler, whatever the ruler. And they are never happy with any ruler. That is very important to remember. If they were not happy with Ali Uthman, who do you bring them? Now, if you bring some king, who cares? Miskin. If they didn't accept Ali and Uthman. So that is one of their features, that they find fault with anyone. Yani imagine if the first person who started found fault with Prophet ﷺ. Who else is left? They always find faults with the best people who have no faults. The same occurred with Uthman. So they came back. The Sahaba, Ali was there. He said, why are you here? You have to be home. You have to be in Egypt, Iraq, somewhere. Why are you here in Medina? They said, we found a letter that Uthman wrote with a boy who was on the camel of Uthman. The boy belonged to Uthman, and there was this, what do you call it, the stamp of Uthman that said when these people reach Egypt or other places to kill them. So he lied to us, they said. Because he said to us he had forgiven us. And we wouldn't be punished, even though they should be punished, to be honest. So these guys are coming and saying that. So they went to Uthman, all Sahaba, or whoever was there, they went to Uthman and said, is it true? He said, yes, the camel belongs to me, the boy belongs to me, the stamp belongs to me, but I swear by Allah I didn't write it. So you have a dilemma now. You believe the evidence, or you believe Uthman. So then they analyzed the handwriting, because that was the only thing that they didn't analyze. Then they analyzed handwriting, and they realized it wasn't Uthman's handwriting. So someone had written it and used Uthman to frame Uthman, or to show it that the Khalifa said, to actually execute them, maybe thinking he is doing a good favor to Uthman, because they're against him. So in many books of history they mention, including Sir Alam Nubla, from which I'm reading, that it was Marwan's handwriting, Marwan al-Hakam, and the Sahaba, they requested Uthman to punish Marwan, because it could have potentially, and it did eventually, unfortunately, it could have potentially made and ignited a very big problem and conflict. So Uthman refused. Uthman refused. And it came to a head, you can say, on a Friday, when the people, many of them, they refused to leave until they said the issue is clarified. At that time, they clearly started threatening Uthman directly with execution. Meaning their, you can say, impudence, jur'ah in Arabic, reached such a stage, some of them, that they started saying, if you don't do this, we will kill you. To Uthman. None of them are Sahaba. Just like with Ali happened later. So for someone to have that, because the Sahaba, they had adab with Uthman. They never said, yes, they may have differed, and they said, we consider you wrong, just like I said about Talha bin Ubaidillah, Zubair bin al-Awwam, Aisha, and others. They considered Uthman to be wrong. And Talha and Zubair, they regretted when Uthman was killed. So they said, until our blood is spilled, we will never be able to see Allah when we die, because we didn't do anything to help Uthman. We kept criticizing him. Because the Sahaba who were at the time in Medina, they never thought that they actually would go on and kill Uthman. They thought it's just talk, they're talking. They wouldn't actually dare. We are here, subhanAllah. Some of the Sahaba, they kept telling Uthman to fight them and to execute them, to kill them. Uthman kept saying, no, I don't want to spill blood because of me. So you can say that maybe Uthman made a mistake or not, but some Sahaba suggested it. He said, you can't allow people to talk to you like this. You can't allow people to come to Medina and behave like this. So many ulama, and some nice quote from some of the ulama, they said about these people who gathered, وَكَانُوا يَدًّا وَاحِدَةً فِي الشَّرِّ. They were all united upon evil. وَكَانَتْ حُثَالَةً مِنَ النَّاسِ. And they were the worst of people, those who wanted to kill Uthman. And the Sahaba who didn't come or didn't think that it would go to that, they disliked to cause fitna, and they used to think it wouldn't reach that stage of killing Uthman. So they were thinking, okay, they will come and say something, so Uthman will talk to them, and maybe he will give them something, and they will go. That's it. No fitna, we don't need to get involved. And some Sahaba thought like that, radiallahu anhum. The problems escalated because those people refused to leave. They said, we want Uthman to do this for us. We want him to give us Marwan or someone who... So basically all of that, we have to have a big picture, not just what they're demanding. We have to have the big picture, like I said. First of all, why are they there in Medina? Why are all there? You don't come, I want to visit my brother. I want to clarify something. I come with 10 bodyguards. What are you going to understand from that? I didn't come to sort out a problem. I came to beat him up or something. Or I expect some problem to occur and I'm prepared. Just like some brothers come and knock on your door and they say, we come for da'wah. They have 10 people. 10 people or 12. He come for da'wah 1 or 2 or 3. Not football team. Why are you bringing a football team? Something, what do you think? It's just like this occurred? No, because there is pressure. There is pressure for you to accept what they're saying. So if you're weak, you don't have any proof, you don't know how da'wah should be done, you will accept it and you will go. Because if one person comes or two, it's different. Just like some Christians who call themselves Christians, they come and they bring white man and black woman. So if you're black, she's there. If you're a woman, she's there. If you're a man, he's the guy. If you're white, that's him. So they figure out you're either man or woman, that's true. Or you're either white or black. So we have basically, you can relate to anyone. Recently they came to my house, they start speaking Arabic even. They called Jesus' name Isa. So I said, oh mashallah, you've done homework, you know that we call him Isa. Because they go around Muslim areas, all the Muslim houses, and they talk to the Muslims. Some Muslims swear at them. It's not correct. You shouldn't swear at them, but we should explain. Because they say, look, we give you some literature. I say to them, look, I give you some literature. You take? They say, no. I say, no, I don't take your literature. They said, okay, no problem. But if you give them donuts and food, they might take your literature. It's because, brothers, those people, they think what they're doing is true. They think that you are in dalala, in misguidance. And you, if you treat them badly, they think, may Allah guide him. May God guide him. He treats us like this, but Jesus said to be patient. So if you treat them bad, they're going to think you really in dalala. But if you treat them nice and you say, look, our Quran says this, they can't say that. They can't think like that. And that's why the wisdom of Allah telling us not to treat them badly, but to talk to them nicely. Of course, you might have to figure out how you squeeze in 2 hours because it might take that long. Or if you don't have 2 hours, you just excuse yourself in a polite manner. So the people who came to so-called talk to Uthman, they came with an army, 1,000 plus people. What is this talk? It's not talking. That's why some Sahaba say, what is this? Why are they coming so many people? You have to punish them. What is... So Uthman said, no. So, what happened was that Uthman radiallahu anhu, he prayed Friday as the Khalifa used to do. Khalifa used to pray prayers in the masjid of the Prophet ﷺ, and he used to do Jum'ah. That means that after you pray, you could talk to him. Khalifa. And he did khutbah. And he said in the khutbah, he said, "Oh, brothers who came to fight," he said straight to them, "I warn you that if you don't return, then you will be cursed by Allah." So he said, "I warn you." So he said, remove the mistake by doing something good. Correct? Because he said Allah doesn't remove a sin except with a good deed. So some people interrupted his khutbah. That's a sign of people of fitna. They try to show themselves to be jihad. They're doing jihad now against Uthman. They do jihad. They, mashallah. So they interrupt the khutbah. Because they like the people to see them, like munafiq. He likes people to see when he goes fajr, and if he goes to any salah, he likes people to see. That's why the Prophet said, munafiqs generally don't come to fajr and isha. No one to see. Dark. When it's light, mashallah, everyone can see. They go and maybe they say, I'm going to dhuhr. Even though everyone knows. So, some interrupted, started making problem. Some, of course, when someone interrupts, what's going to happen? Some other people are going to say what? Keep quiet. Or try to remove them from the khutbah. Once I was doing khutbah, subhanallah, it was shocking, because I'd never seen that before in my life. So I was doing khutbah like this, and someone in the first row, he started shouting and said, "How can you say this?" I said, "A'udhu billah, who's this?" So I looked at him, normal, he looks normal, no signs of junun, of madness. So I ignored him. So I continued. He said, "You're a kafir," he said. So I said, this is probably some problem. So I tried not to speak, because then the khutbah is finished. Then I was talking to him, he's talking to me, and problem. So some brothers came quietly and removed him. So that's what I'm saying. When something like that happens, either I talk like the Prophet talked to that man who said, we want rain. So the Prophet stopped the khutbah and talked to him. Then after 1 week he said, too much rain. Ask Allah to remove the rain. The same man. So the Prophet stopped the khutbah again, talked to him. So either you have that choice, or you have choice to, if some brothers ask him to go or remove him, they had to remove this guy physically, because he didn't want to go. He wanted to say, I'm a kafir. He said, you're an agent, you're a kafir. Anyway, so they removed him. So that similar almost happened in that, and of course people started, because they had so many numbers and the Sahaba were outnumbered. You know, those people were so many in number, they actually started converging on Uthman. So Uthman, when he realized that the issue is getting out of hand, he lost consciousness. And he was carried to his house. He didn't finish the khutbah actually. So he was carried to his house. So some Sahaba like Zayd bin Thabit, Abu Huraira, Sa'd bin Malik, Hassan bin Ali, Hassan son of Ali, and Hussein was there as well. Hassan was of course older. They said they're going to protect Uthman at any cost. And they had a few other people who were very well trained in the art of killing other people. But Uthman told them, if you obey me as a Khalifa, when he came around and he regained consciousness, by the way, losing consciousness makes your wudu invalidated. So you have to renew your wudu if you want to pray, if someone loses consciousness. So when Uthman radiallahu anhu regained consciousness, he said, if I'm your Khalifa still, of course he's Khalifa, he said, I don't allow any of you to fight for me. So he said, no bodyguards. They want to come to my house, let them come. And of course he reminded also of the good things he did. And the ulama, they talked about these issues in their books. They said it's permissible sometimes to remind people of the good things you did if you're in a position like Uthman, where you have to defend your honor and you have to show that you're not who they say you are. Because they started saying you didn't go to Badr. Why didn't he go to Badr? His wife was ill. They started saying things like that. So he said to them, didn't I do this? Didn't I prepare Ghazwat Tabuk? Didn't I buy this well in Medina when we moved and we needed it? They said, yes, but we have to kill you. How does it work? That's why Mubtadi' an innovator doesn't think logically. Especially Khawarij. Khawarij, one of the features they have, and the people who follow them now, they don't respect anyone, except people who agree with them. Just like many people of Bid'ah. You may be greatest muhaddith in this dunya, they don't care about you. Because you're not with them. They put some jahil, Maulana, Sheikh. I know because I talk to such people. I said, Ikhwan, many times, even now sometimes we go somewhere we talk because this is issue of life and death. They send our young brothers to die by claiming jihad when the ulama didn't say jihad. And those who send, they're sitting in the West. They don't go themselves. They say, Akhi, you have to go. It's jihad. Why don't you go then? So when you talk to them, I said, who gave you fatwa for this? They say names of young brothers. Akhi, Ikhwan, I said, these brothers are not mufti. They're not ulama. How can you take their opinion? They didn't even reach 30, some of them. The microphone? No? Some of them didn't reach 30 years of age. And you leave ulama who spend their lifetime, they are now 70, 60, 80, and they're telling you, and they know more than those young brothers. And you ignore them. You call them scholars for dollars. You call them bad names. You call them... How can you do that? They have no answer. They say they're scholars for dollars. They're scholars of the government. These brothers are the real deal. You know, they named names. Some of them you know. I was shocked. I said, how can you... I wasn't shocked in a way because I knew they would name them. But I said, how can you take fatwa in jihad and killing from these people and not take from? And that's what's happening. You know, they say, yes, Uthman, you did. But some of them even said, قَدْ أَحَلَّ اللَّهُ الدَّمَكَ. Allah allowed to kill you. Where? Like they did takfir of Ali. And how can you think Allah allowed, unless you're himar really, that Allah allowed Uthman to be killed? Which Sahabi said this? No one. But non-Sahabi, he thinks, mashallah, because I memorized them, Hafiz, mashallah. I memorized some book. The person who killed Ali, he used to even do lessons. He ended up killing Ali radiallahu anhu, and saying he did very good deed and Allah will reward him. The same happening to Uthman. But Uthman radiallahu anhu, he said, if they want me, no one should die with me, he said. I don't want, meaning, because of me, many of our friends to die. Because that can happen. So some people now, some people of fitna, and some brothers informed me, they go around saying some Sahaba in the time of Uthman, they abandoned Uthman. That's not true. Alhamdulillah. It's not true. Some Sahaba, like I said, who were not in Medina, those who wanted to defend Uthman, he didn't allow them. Some Sahaba, they forcefully stayed in his house, but they were few. So and of course they entered Uthman, they found Uthman and his wife in the house. And Uthman at the time, some say was fasting, some say was reading Quran. It was Friday, it was Dhul Hijjah. It was 82 or 86-year-old old man. It was the best man alive at the time. Still they killed him. They cut off the fingers of his wife. In case. I don't know, sick people. They're always sick people. And they say jihad, jihad. So they were doing jihad again against Uthman. So they killed Uthman. They cut the fingers of his wife's, one of her hands. Of course, old woman and not young. Let's say that she was very young, maybe, but not very young. She wasn't. And of course, when that happened, Sahaba were shocked. Ali came and they say he hit Hassan and Hussein. And he said, "What's wrong with you? I told you not to allow anything to happen." Some people, the son of Talha was there, the son of Zubair, Ali, they say punished all of them. Their sons. But in all fairness, what could they have done against such a group of people? So some of the, and of course Uthman radiallahu anhu was, he said also that not to kill, just like Ali, not to kill for his death except the person who did it. So some said, like I said, that the person who killed Uthman was called Himar. Anyone who contributed to the killing of Uthman, of course, has tremendous sin. But what do we say? Like Imam Zahabi said the last time, we say that it's possible Allah may forgive them, but we hate them for the sake of Allah. Just like the person who killed Ali, person who killed Uthman, person who killed Talha, person who killed Zubair. We hate them for the sake of Allah. We don't say they're kuffar, they're disbelievers. Unless they say it's permissible to kill a believer, which is making it halal, what Allah made haram, then that's a different issue. Of course, and you know the way they killed Uthman is very savage, because they didn't give him water. They stopped, they removed and they tortured him. And he used to say, didn't I buy that well for the people, for the Muslims, and you're now not giving me simple water? Old man, how can you kill, Ikhwan, tell me this, how can you do this to a non-Muslim? Non-Muslim old man, 80-year-old non-Muslim, you're not allowed to do it. 80-year-old Muslim, even worse. 80-year-old alim, 80-year-old son-in-law of the Prophet ﷺ twice. Subhanallah. So that's why you can now understand why Talha and Zubayr regretted it so much. Because they never expected this to reach that conclusion. And of course he was killed in year 35, like I said. And some of the lessons we can say from this story, some of them I mentioned. That maybe a ruler can be seen to make mistakes in some issues while being right in most of them. While being right, and this applies actually to our lives, to our marriage, to our husbands and wife, to our friends, because sometimes we have so-called friends who think we are malaika. We are angels. We can't make mistakes. So we can't look sometimes angry. We can't, to be with them is hard because they expect you to be something which you are not. So they don't forgive you if you make my mistake. They don't forgive you if you look some way, or if you're at home and let's say you can't open the door for them. They don't forgive you. Such people are not your friends. The same husband and wife, or in the masjid we have brothers, they make mistakes. We should forgive them. So while Uthman radiallahu anhu did so much good for Islam and the Muslims, some people of fitna, they still kept continuing accusing him of bad things and mistakes, and why did he do this and why did he do that. So Uthman didn't want to fight them, correct? But they were still not happy. Ali fought them and killed them, they were still not happy. What can you do with them? What you can do is, if you have the opportunity, to do what the Prophet ﷺ said, to prevent them from doing fasad. What Ali did radiallahu anhu. So look, they're not happy with both ways. One, that he tries to be nice to them. Two, they did takfir of Ali even. They said he was not a Muslim. And in the Islamic history, this proves that going against the ruler, good ruler or bad ruler, as long as he is a Muslim, is haram by what the Prophet said. If he's not a Muslim and the Muslims are not able to change him, meaning they're weak, or the ruler is supported by outside powers, they're not allowed to go against him. Why? Because it will lead to fitna, and it will lead to the destabilization of the country. And that's not going to add any points for us, because it's not going to allow us to do anything good. So we have to learn from this experience, and I finish now.